Hi guys, it's Joel here. In this video, I'm going to give you the no nonsense, no bullshit guide to 1 meal a day dieting. That's OMAD dieting. Check it out. So, OMAD, 1 meal a day, is a type of diet or sometimes a lifestyle, and it's a form of what's called intermittent fasting. And it's a tool that people use to control weight or perhaps lose weight and change their lifestyle for the better. I have been doing OMAD for about a year. If you clicked on this, I'm going to assume you're a beginner and you're trying to figure out what is OMAD and how do I get started. So, why fasting and what is fasting? So, fasting is just not eating for an extended period of time, not consuming any calories. There's a little bit of science behind it, but essentially, it helps you achieve two things. Obviously, when you're not consuming calories, you can help create a calorie deficit, and that can contribute to losing weight. You lose weight when you consume less calories than you burn. So, fasting can help you to create a caloric deficit. There's also some evidence suggesting that by fasting, we're controlling our body's hormones, such as insulin, which trigger things like fat storage. So, when you eat food, your insulin increases, and insulin tells your organs to convert carbohydrates and sugars in your body into fat and store them for later. And this is an evolutionary trait that we've developed hundreds of years ago, when food wasn't so abundant, there would be long periods of time between meals. And when the opportunity arose, you would eat a lot of calories at one time. Your body would convert those excess calories into fat and store them for later, so that when periods of fasting occurred, you would have some energy to draw on. The problem is today, food is abundant and we're eating all the time. And in fact, we're encouraged to eat all the time, whether that's 3 meals a day, 6 meals a day, and we're eating a lot of highly processed food. Historically, we wouldn't have just had access to those types of foods and that amount of processed food, and therefore we wouldn't have had such an opportunity to continue to store fat. So the idea of fasting is that you're giving your body a break from calories. You're giving your body a break from those things that are going to trigger those insulin responses, and you're coaching your body not to store so much fat. In fact, you're coaching your body to access the fat that you should be using during your fasting period and burn that off. So that's some of the bro science behind intermittent fasting. So, what are some of the basics of OMAD? So, as it suggests, the idea is to just eat 1 meal a day. But sometimes you might hear people refer to this as your eating window. So, for the times that you're not eating, you are therefore in your fasting window. So, don't just think of it necessarily as one meal. That's a very simplistic way to think of it. Think of it about a limited opportunity every day that you're going to eat. Some people refer to this as time restricted eating. The benefits are that if you are typically eating 3 meals a day and now you're going down to just eating 1 meal a day, I don't have to be a mathematician to see that. Therefore, I should be eating half, probably a third, or even less of the food that I was previously consuming, and therefore 1/3 of the calories that I was previously consuming. So, 1 meal a day is simply that, aiming to eat once at one opportunity throughout the day. That means you're eliminating snacking throughout the day. That means you're eliminating other meals throughout the day. And that means you're focusing on just a finite period of time when you're going to consume some form of calories. So, getting started on OMAD is pretty simple. You need to think about the last time that you ate and perhaps giving yourself at least, I would say, a 20-hour fasting break before the next time that you're going to eat. When you're first starting out on OMAD, it's easy to think about it in terms of the time that you're eating and then setting a time and being consistent. For example, for me, I like to eat with the family, and that's usually around about 5 p.m anywhere through to about 8 p.m. So there's about a 4 hour window of opportunity that I'll allow myself to eat my one meal. And I'm not strict on one meal. A lot of OMADers are not completely strict on one meal, but they will have an opportunity of time where they will eat. Not usually physically stuff yourself with enough food that you're going to have an excess of calories. And therefore, if you continue to have that restricted window of eating every day, you're going to start losing weight. So as I said, for me, it's the evening. Most people will find it is the evening. I did do a poll on my community channel. Majority of people generally break their fast or eat their meal anywhere from 3 p.m. through to 8 p.m. seems to be the majority. For some people, it does work for them to eat in the morning. Personally, I would not be able to do that. I find it the days that I do eat in the morning, I'm more inclined to want to eat again in the afternoon or later in the day. To start out with OMAD, it's really thinking about when you're going to eat, more so than what you're going to eat. Basically, the reason OMAD becomes sustainable for people is because they're not really restricting what they're eating, they're just restricting when they're eating. So if you still enjoy pizza and tacos and some of those foods that might be considered fairly unhealthy on a regular diet, you get to look forward to eating those foods in that window of opportunity. So it doesn't feel like such an onerous calorie restriction or food restriction. It's more of a time restriction. How long do I fast and what do I eat during my fast? Probably the most common questions that I get on my community page and on the comments on my YouTube channel. Basically, to ensure that you're not breaking your fast, you need to ensure that you're not consuming any calories. But generally, anything with calories, you're going to trigger that metabolic response. We're going to trigger insulin. We're going to trigger fat storage. And also, we're adding to our total calorie intake. So, the concept of OMAD is to not eat anything that has calories for your fasting period. And for most OMADers, this is again a generalization, but that's usually a 20-hour period where you're not consuming any calories, and typically around about a 4-hour period where you are. But it's not uncommon for some people to have a 23-hour period where they're not eating anything and then just a 1-hour period. And some people don't even think of it in terms of that timing. They're just going to have one meal. There are a lot of things that you can still enjoy to help you get through that fasting window. So, what are some of the things that you can use or can consume during your fasting window to make sure that you can make it through to when you're going to have your meal? Because for new OMADers, sometimes it is hard to make it, and there are some tips I'll share with you in a second. But what can you consume? Basically, water. You must consume water. You have to continue to drink water. Don't exclude water from your diet, whether that's in your fasting window or your eating window. Drink plenty of water. It does help to fill your stomach and it does help to keep you hydrated. I like to drink lots of black coffee, sometimes black tea. Those things can be good ways to keep you feeling a little satiated, but again, you're not consuming any calories. Another option is diet sodas, diet soft drinks. And again, a lot of people on YouTube are kind of exaggerating the risks of drinking diet sodas and diet Pepsis with these artificial sweeteners. I would not be too stressed about that. If you're not consuming them in excess like anything else, they're not going to be unhealthy for you. But certainly, diet soft drink, diet sodas, tea, black coffee, water, all those sorts of things will help you get through a fast. So, what are some tips for getting through that fasting period? If you haven't tried OMAD before, it could be a shock to the system fasting for that long. So you could try doing shorter fasts and then building up to a longer fast. And eventually, after a week or maybe 2 weeks, you have adapted to fasting and you can take on OMAD. So some of those other options could be a 16-hour fast, an 18-hour fast, commonly referred to as 16 and 8 or 18 and 6. Some people also call it 2MAD, 2 meals a day. That really is only effective though if you're still getting that fasting. So I don't think it's effective to have breakfast and then dinner because you're only having a 12-hour fasting period, if you like, or 10-hour fasting period between those meals. You're better off keeping the meals closer together and having a longer fast around the clock. Uh, and as you progress, you will be able to get better at fasting and you will find out that you're not as hungry as you thought you were. You can abstain from eating and then you can progressively move towards one meal a day. Some other tips for avoiding temptation and avoiding eating during your fast are firstly, keep busy, keep active. Like anything, idle hands makes the devil's work, right? So if you're out of the house as much as practical, if you're keeping your mind active, you're keeping yourself busy, you won't be preoccupied with the hunger. You'll see the whole day go by and you won't realize you haven't eaten. It's the times when you're not busy and you're around temptation. So you're in the house, you're around the kitchen. Those times are the times that I find it's difficult to sustain a fast. Also, plan ahead. I like to set a goal time in mind to say, well, I'm going to fast until 4 p.m. or I'm going to fast until 3 p.m. or 6 p.m. or whatever you think is a good length of time for you to fast. And then I'm going to start my eating window. There are apps and stuff out there. I used to personally use the app Zero. I won't recommend it now though, because you have to, it's a paid subscription. You're really only measuring time. So other options could be get your phone, set an alarm for 4 p.m. in the afternoon if that's when you want to eat, or 3 p.m. When you finished eating the next night, count 20 hours on the clock and set the alarm for the next day. That's basically all the apps are doing, is just showing you when you last ate and when you should next eat to achieve your goal. So those apps are there. You might be able to find some free ones. I haven't been able to find any good ones. Apart from Zero was okay, but like I said, it's a paid subscription. The other way that I would recommend to help you get through the fast is plan ahead for your meal. Often when you're fasting, you start to get cravings and you start to really think about your next meal. And if you haven't pre-prepared what you're going to eat, that can be consuming in your mind, and you can start to think about, for me, this is my example, right? Man, I could smash some tacos. Oh, what about a pizza? Oh, nachos sounds good. Hey, I might just go across the road and check out what sort of chips they've got for nachos. And then by the time 4 o'clock comes around, if I haven't already cheated, I'm absolutely climbing the wall for whatever I've been convincing myself that I need. And it's just the wrong mindset. Whereas if I sit down and plan, tonight we're going to have, for example, tonight I'm having chicken pesto gnocchi. I'm cooking it for the family. I know exactly what we're going to eat, and I know it'll be ready at 5 p.m. And therefore, I don't have to think about all these other distractions throughout the day. That can be a challenge when you're fasting is your social life or interacting with friends, family, work colleagues around meal times. Often you want to go and enjoy social time with people, and that's great. And a lot of that revolves around food in our culture. And typically, the hardest times I've found to sustain a fast is when you go out for a meal, particularly lunch, with friends, colleagues, co-workers. But I've also found if you're quite transparent with people about what you're doing and the fact that you're not going to be eating in advance of the date, or in advance of the meal, or in advance of the function, or you're pretty explicit about what you're going to be eating versus what you're not going to be eating. So in my example, I'd say, hey, I'm fasting until 5 p.m. because I'm doing OMAD and I'm trying to lose some weight, or I'm doing OMAD and I'm trying to fix my metabolism. Therefore, when we go out for lunch, don't worry about me. I'll just have a Diet Coke. I'll have a black coffee. I'll have some tap water. And that way you're completely transparent about what you're doing. So I covered off what to expect when you're fasting and what to expect in terms of hunger. Should you expect in terms of results, and in particular weight loss? Most people, and I included, experience pretty rapid weight loss in the first 1, 2, 3 weeks of starting the OMAD diet, particularly. And don't be alarmed that you're losing weight quickly, but also don't expect to sustain such rapid weight loss, because a lot of people, if you're doing this for weight loss, will have that rapid weight loss and they'll think, oh, this is easy. And then they'll slip up and they might go back to eating regularly, and then the weight piles back on. Then after a couple of weeks, I would also advise you to expect a bit of a plateau. So you'll have that initial weight loss period, and then you'll have a period of pretty steady weight. And that can also be alarming, in fact, disappointing for some people. Don't be alarmed. Again, it can be your body's natural response. You're entering a period where calories aren't abundant, and your body's sort of saying, well, hang on, I don't want to start, giving up my precious stored fat as energy. Uh, I'm going to continue to hold on to this, and I'm going to spike your hunger hormones such as ghrelin because I want you to keep eating, right? That's what your brain and your body and your hormones are telling yourself. But ultimately, you'll go through that flattened period. And if you can be disciplined and your calories are still in a deficit, you will eventually turn the tables on your metabolism and you'll start to lose weight again, or you'll sustain the weight that you've lost. Like I said, that was my no bullshit guide. I hope you found it helpful. Like and subscribe. It really helps me grow the channel. Go over to my community page. Let me know if you've got any questions or concerns in the comments. Now, I really encourage you, if you haven't tried one meal a day, to give it a go. Give it a week, give it 2 weeks, see how it feels for you. It doesn't work for everybody. It certainly works for me. And I really think it's going to be the way that I eat forever moving forward. But check out the rest of the videos on my channel and keep up to date on my YouTube shorts. Cheers, everyone.
Peace.